Hi. Today I will have I have the pleasure to interview composer from Japan, Yumi Kurosawa. Hi, Yumi.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Maybe you can give us a short description of yourself.
Of myself. So I'm a Japanese koto player, which is like a harp, a horizontal instrument. I started when I was 3 years old with my parents. My parents are also professional koto players. And after all music activities based in Tokyo, I moved to New York in 2002 and continued to music activities, and also I started compose own music.
Good, good. And what is a good musical composition for you?
Good music composition for me. I mean, I like any kinds of music, but even though 1 second, I want to feel like dramatic moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So even it's slow or silence, minimalism, any kinds of music, but maybe it can be just a few notes, but melody makes you move, but also rhythm could be move you, or any kinds of moment, but I want to feel like dramatic moment. I think that's great music.
Can you give, for example of the last piece which we have experienced, feeling of a dramatic movement?
Yeah, almost every time, So because I'm Japanese koto player, and so I started with Japanese koto traditional music, and then I started playing contemporary experimental type of music when I was 15 years old, composed by other composers. And then after I moved to New York, I started composing my music. So I've been playing so many kinds of music. And most of the time, I pick up even tiny bit of time or big moment. It depends. But I almost every piece, I find the dramatic moment in every pieces.
Okay, and can you just describe what is like this dramatic movement, or
What is dramatic? So as I mentioned, it could be melody, even though just a few notes, but yeah, and also rhythm or dynamics, or all combined with many kinds of elements, I should say. So yeah, do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yes, a little bit. I have some kind. Yeah, I'm not fully clear, but I have some idea, right? What are you saying? And you said that you're composing as well, right?
I'm sorry?
You said that you're composing on your own.
Yes, I do.
Do you think? Do you have a style as composer?
I think so. I think every composer has own styles. And I would say because I'm Japanese traditional music koto player, so I always wanted to mix with other culture. So my style is, let's say, crossover type of music. And yeah, I always put of course, play with other cultures' instruments. And also I use many kinds of music scales. So I love like blend with others.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So you usually blend something, this Japanese, right? With Koto, with some others stuff. Correctly, right?
Yeah. So yeah, even though that, whatever my pieces doesn't seem like Japanese sounds, but still I'm always based on Japanese tradition.
Yes, got it.
Yeah. And but it like a contemporary way, I should say.
Yes,
So it's more technique or more notes or depends on the piece. And
yes,
then I put other elements in it. So I love that style. And I think that's my style.
got it, got it, got it. So let's say here, in this case, being Japanese is a very, very, like, let's say, valuable resource for you, right? It's way how you can differentiate your music from other composers in United States, right?
So I think, yeah, as I mentioned, learned about Koto traditional music and learned about other contemporary composers' music.
Yes.
Helped me so much to start compose music. And I still play everything,
Got it.
but and also that gives me great balance in myself mentally. So yeah, it's good to play those three big different kinds.
Yes.
Helps me a lot, yes.
Yes. And would you be completely another composer if you would stay in Japan? Would you
If I
if you, because you said, right, that in 2002 you moved from Japan, you moved to New York. Would you be different composer if you would stay, right, in Japan? Would you?
oh yeah, that could be possible because since I am Japanese traditional musical instrument player, somewhat I always believed that I should get together with others because I am one of Japanese tradition.
Yes.
And yeah, reason why, because um, since traditional music player, traditional music was new at that moment, right?
Yes.
So yeah, that's why I believe that I want to try what I can create, what I can try, and in this era in my lifetime. So yeah, it was very important to get together with others,
Got it.
especially, and then I picked New York City.
Yes.
It was convenient for me.
Got it. Got it. Got it. And would your music would be different if you would be a man?
I mean, I think yes. And if I'm still female and different person, it should be different. So it's really depends on who you are, I
Yes.
think.
Yes. 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 And what is your thoughts? Does like contemporary music, because right, we can, at least we can try to build, right, this assumption that at least last century, very huge influence was from male. It was male dominated composers. And of course, somebody can say, right, that it's due to that it was male-dominated composers, our contemporary academic music, let's say, maybe is we can say it's more masculine than feminine, right? And do you agree that music is that academic music is masculine?
Like if I talk about Koto history, because it was by the way, Koto has more than 1,300 years of history, and it was used for monks and medical doctors. I'm sure they were men
Yes.
to raise their, inner strength and concentration. And then after a while, it became part of education for the aristocratic society in Japan. And then finally, it became culture. but around 1600, the Japanese government selected great koto shamisen players and composers, and then they let them just keep compose music.
Yes.
And that was all men.
Yes.
Yeah. So I say historically, yes.
Yes.
But yeah.
But do you think this musical language is masculine? Or we cannot say that, or music is not, let's say, masculine, feminine, or it's just something.
Yes, I can hear, like, men's composers, and sounds like really masculine, but also men's composers sounds like feminine. So again, I think it depends on who you are. Doesn't matter your gender or Japanese or American, or doesn't matter.
Yes.
It depends on the person.
You told me that now you are start working on, let's say, multisensory pieces, the pieces where where there is a performance elements, maybe some video. Do you consider yourself as audio, it's a multimedia composer?
Do I consider?
Yes, yourself.
As a multi, I wouldn't say I am, but I studied computer music when I was in college, and that moment, it was like a open eyes moment, because I didn't know noise music genre, and that gave me so much experience and knowledge, and that was great. And then after I moved to New York City, for like good amount of years, I used electronic sound that I created.
Yes.
Interact live playing myself or with others. And now I am having pose to use electronic sound.
Yes.
And focus on, I've been working on many kinds of projects, but focusing on compose music for my trio and solo, of course, or any kinds of projects. But near future, I think I've been thinking one particular project I've never done before. Okay. And it's going to be multimedia type of project.
Yes. And what triggered you? What was the trigger?
Of course, as I said, I learned computer music when I was in college. That's why I started it.
Yes.
But I want to use those, electronic stuff in good use. Good. I just don't want to use, okay, I got it. Okay, I'm going to use this. I want to use them for the reason.
Yes.
Good reason. So.
Yes, good. Yeah. And how your music changed in the last 10 years?
Of course. And I think since last year, I think I've been in the transition moment nowadays. And let's say my original first album was like, okay, this is it. And the second album, I got into ethnic type of sounds, and of course Indian tabla I use a lot, and actually I am making new CD this year. Mm-hmm. And so far sounds like, I'm now little bit shifting to contemporary music type of music. Mm-hmm. I think Yeah, I hope you understand what I mean, but yeah.
Got it. Got it. And what kind of technologies are you using? Some softwares or hardwares when you compose?
Yeah, so I learned when I was in college, Lisp,
Okay.
and C language. Um, and also Pro Tools. Of course, I use Pro Tools all the time, and yeah, other kinds also.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. And what is your way of composing, right? How you start and what kind of stages you are going through when you compose?
Yes. So I need to get images in my head, images and also stories. It would be great to start imagine. And then after that, I start hearing in my head melodies and some type of sounds. That's how I start compose music always.
Yes. So you somehow collect material visually, right? And then you have a lot of, let's say, input signals, and music start creating itself in your head like internal voice.
Yeah. Yes.
Are you challenging that internal voice? Are you just because you're hearing say, okay, no, just please, and then you are pushing it to more, let's say, more complicated, or you're saying, okay, this is please, so you're making, or you're just allowing it to flow like.
Yeah. So one of my new pieces called Restless Daydream, I thought, what if I write music, just what's going on in my head when I started to compose music? So at the beginning, I always get overwhelmed with so many ideas and sounds.
Yes.
And then after that moment, I, start shaping the actual music. That's, I think, that's always the case.
Yes. So it's like somehow you censorship, right? Yeah. There is some kind of internal censor which
Oh
makes
yeah,
remakes, right?
yeah, all the time. So when I was based in Tokyo, that moment I wasn't composing music yet, but somewhat so many kinds of sounds in my head all the time, and I didn't know how I should deal with it. So I kind of knew I was going to start compose music.
Yes.
Actually, after I moved to New York, I started it.
Yes. Yes. And then let's say musical education, right, or composer education helps you structure that internal fight.
Well, yes, we learn music, structure, theory, everything, and for technique or express music, that's also training, right? We've been doing that
Yes.
since we were little. But composed music is a little different in my case because I was totally performer for many years, and then I started composed music. So yeah, it was like basically being as a composer and performer, different modes. So I have to switch around.
Got it.
And yes, so yes, as a composer, and when I'm working on new pieces, we usually do some new music at the same time. Depends on what I get.
Yes.
And so it's like talking to myself, thinking just in myself all day long. Even I feel like when I'm sleeping.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. But what are this conversation? Because this is very interesting. What are you saying usually to yourself, Brett? And when you compose, what is? Can you just give a little bit example of this internal conversation of composer during when he composed music, right?
Yeah. So if I describe like really simple way, Is it like start with so something was in my head, like
Yes.
let's say melody, sounds,
Yes.
notations,
Yes.
and I actually started composing and playing,
Yes.
try to play, and like it's not gonna work, or I have to change this to make it more cooler
Got it.
or
Got it.
dramatic, or it's always like answer and question.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. And what you fear the most as composer, right? What is your composer fear?
So I think if I don't know, but if I say one thing, I think when I premiere new piece for the concert,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
especially for ensemble pieces.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And what is the fear? What kind of thought you have in mind, right? So you are afraid of that that performance will not play as you intended, or you think about audience, or some other fears.
I would say it can be fear, but also at the same time, that's an excitement for composers, because we haven't seen the audience reaction yet.
Yes.
So yeah, that's why, like we go, I think, yeah, we all composers go into such details last minute again.
Right.
And we try, or I try my best, right? And then when I hear the reaction from audience, it's such a great moment.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So this, right, I correctly understand that this feedback from audience is very intriguing, and meanwhile a little bit fearful, right? Moment, because you don't know what it will be, right?
Yeah, you don't know, and also I think we all want to try our best. That's why I think.
Yes, got it, got it. And why do you still compose, right?
Why do I think so start composing music was very natural to me, because as I explained. So but again, I think in my case, because I'm a Japanese traditional musical instrument player, I really wanted to try to create something on my own in this era, in my lifetime.
Yes.
That's and I want to see,
Yes.
what I can do, and I want to show what I can do.
Got it.
That's why I think I continue to compose music.
Got it. Got it. And do you consider yourself more like, let's say, belonging to New York music scene, or Japanese music scene in Japan? Which you more yourself, right?
Both of them are very important to me, and Japan and America, of course, different, and I love both.
Yes.
And yeah, I should say past 10 years I was really I had some goals.
Yes.
And I was trying to accomplish those goals, and which was basically things that I could in New York City.
Got it.
And of course, I go back and forth between Japan and America for concerts, but still, mainly I was focusing on creating arts here in New York City.
Yes.
But now, maybe I'm getting old, but I feel like now I can start really combining here and Japan
Yes.
and create new arts.
Yes. 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 And how, right, looking from your perspective, how new music or contemporary music scene change this century in New York, right? What was the biggest changes? What you observe
In the world.
in New York? In New York.
New York. In New York, I don't know if I see something specific in New York, but in general, I think the internet gave us so many things, and that changed our life a lot in many ways.
Mhm.
Of course, music as well, because we can get any kind of information if you wish.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's, I think, really, really big invention, and it's going to be more and more, I guess, especially after the pandemic. I mean, during the pandemic, we needed to rely on technology, right? To meet people, to have conversation or meeting or music. So yeah, technology, internet gave us so much changes.
And does this technology somehow shape or change musical language that composers use in using in their works?
I think I should say yes, because it could be anything. Like, we can get influenced by any kinds of things, everyday life or every moment. You might find new things
Yes.
1 hour later, or so I think it could be, the technology give us so many things, and that affects our life.
Yes.
So as music.
Yes. Yes. And crossovers, are they big? And are they becoming more and more evident? Right. You said because you're doing like crossovering, right? Combining
Mhm.
genres. Does this somehow becoming more and more trendy in New York in this century, or it was
uh,
always there?
so okay, yeah, so let's say 10 years ago, I was composing new music for Koto with other kinds of instruments or
Yes.
artists. But because we didn't have, I don't know, 10 years ago, did we have Facebook and stuff already? I guess.
We have as the first years. It was in the
Okay. Okay. So before that, um, it was really different. Do you remember before Facebook
yeah,
or
it was yeah, it was
yeah.
emails. I remember emails. There was mobile phones, but it was with I don't know how to call messaging. Messaging it was right at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. So people who knows about me in Japan, because I didn't tell people that much what I was doing in New York City,
Yeah.
even though I go back and forth. So I think they couldn't understand, or they didn't know what I was exactly doing
Yeah.
that moment. But since Facebook and those kind of things showed up, you can be anywhere and you can see anything right away. You can
Yes.
get all kinds of information right away. So
Yes. 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 Got it. Got it. And how new music audience in New York changed during this century? Is it becoming bigger, wider, or it's becoming less and less, or it changing that some younger people, or there are more artists? What's going on with new music audience or community, right?
community.
Or is it mostly musicians, like, because there are a lot of places that mostly musicians are the audience and community members?
Yeah, I should say being in New York City, you got all kinds of choices every day, and you have to pick one every day.
Yes.
So, New Yorkers, New York people know and experiencing so many kinds of culture, music also. So they know many kinds of stuff. And still they are so excited to hear new things, always looking for new things, want to share, want to experience. It got stuck.
Yes, it's a little bit stuck.
Yeah, so I was saying that New York people know so many kind of culture, arts, music, and still they want to know new things, always looking for new things, and they want to share experience with others. So I like that kind of energy.
Got it. And maybe do you have some observations how new music scene, language, or language change in Japan during this century?
I think, well, of course, I think it's always changing, but we have to keep certain style or certain qualities
Yes.
all the time. So I think that's going on, which is great. And actually, I'm going back to Japan for some concerts next month, and I'm going to premiere two new pieces composed by others.
Yes.
And yeah, it's great. Those qualities is still there.
Yes.
But still, also, we are trying to move forward. So,
Yes.
which is great. Yeah.
Got it. And what kind of future trends you see in contemporary music? Because it's growing, right?
Trends. It's interesting in Japanese contemporary composers in Japan, based in
Yeah.
Japan. I could hear some type of ethnic elements.
More and more,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm?
Is it more and more ethnic elements, right?
I don't know more and more, but it could be like trends, or maybe Japanese people just love that kind of sounds, and I love those, by the way. And yeah, I see those elements in many music pieces, new music.
Yes, but
And
it's the traditional elements, right? It's some kind of elements from traditional Japanese music, right?
more like ethnic, not only Japan.
Okay.
It could be like Middle Eastern,
Okay.
or doesn't exist, but sounds like mixed with this and this kind of.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like mixture, right?
Which
So
I love.
Japanese like mixtures, right?
Mm-hmm. So which is great.
Okay. And what is new music role in Japan, right? In Japan society, what is the role of music?
New music. They're so up for it. Of course, there's so many people who loves classical music, but there are certain people who who's so into new music. So I hope, you know, they can keep on going like that way.
Okay, got it. And last question, what would be your suggestions to younger composers, right? What would you suggest them, right? For those who are at the beginning of their career?
Yeah, so I just told my niece actually a couple months ago, because she's also a musician and but still student, and she was like, how, you know, she asked me several questions. How did you start compose music? Why do you like the kind of questions? And I told her, if you want to compose music, and you should try, but once you tried, you have to continue. You cannot give up. You have to keep on going, because it's not that easy to
Yes.
make it. I would say I'm still learning all the time. So yeah, the most important thing is just keep on going.
Good, good. Okay, thank you very much for our interview.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.